Boeing executive just came out with some statements just before the Paris Air Show here in 2017, saying that Boeing was looking into the possibility of creating a pilotless aircraft. So the questions were, is it worth going into this industry? Should I be spending all of this money on training if it's going to be taken over by Terminator anyway?
Hi there, Mr. Canarum. I have a few questions for you about the airline industry and the future of it. First question here is, do you think robots will take over pilots' jobs? Why or why not?
I don't think that they'll take over the pilots' jobs. I think the flying public will be against that because we've proven safety is enhanced with two pilots. Human element involved. We're there for when bad things happen. We're trained for that, and I think that things that come up that aren't in emergency checklists that pilots can take care of that a robot can't, and also the working with a flying pilot and a non-flying pilot, and with the checklists and interaction between two pilots makes it greatly enhance the safety of the flight. So I think the public, once they understand that and know that, I think they'll be all for having two pilots, two highly trained pilots in the front.
Okay, next question. If robots do take over the airline industry, do you think it will impact the economy positively or negatively?
Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, I think it'd be negative. It'd be bad for the economy to have the robots, because it doesn't take much for any kind of incident that happens in airline aircraft. It's in the media. So the first one of a crash or an incident off the runway with the robot controlling, or going haywire, I think will be negatively impact, and loss of jobs too. But I think ultimately the safety, whenever something happens, it'll impact the airline industry.
Okay. Okay, last question. What would be some pros and cons of robots taking over?
Well, the cons, I would say, would be, for one, less jobs, but that's a minor part of it. Secondary part, I think safety will be diminished with having robots taken over, just because of not being able to react like a human being, and the safety of having two trained pilots to work through issues and helping each other up, backing each other up all the time is much better than, say, one pilot with a robot or just a robot. There's a lot that can happen up there. I mean, you're not like on a railroad where you have an airport, nobody's controlling it. There's a lot of factors, three-dimensional factors, and emergencies that happen that if something happens, engines fail, I mean, you just don't stop on the tracks. You're 35,000 feet up, so you have to get on the ground. So I just think, I mean, it's the pros. I can see having enhance our autopilots and things like that, and we haven't been doing that. So they can enhance safety by the pilot monitoring what the computer is doing on the aircraft, and that enhanced by having two pilots in there interacting with each other. That will enhance safety, and autopilots over the years are getting better and better, and that will enhance safety and having computers helping you out. But I think by having the human element, we'll be much safer. So I can see the only positive is if the pilots are still there and the computers enhancing direction, safety, bringing up when an emergency happens, there's a failure, like a lot of airplanes now have, the system pulls up, there's a diagram, the whole system of pneumatic or hydraulic system will just pop up, and here's the problem, and so computers can help you out there. with the human element involved.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
See you later.
Okay.
Thank you.
They took our jobs! They took our jobs! They took your jobs! Yeah!
For the longest while, airlines treated pilots as a renewable resource. It was long considered one of the best jobs one could have, to make good money flying around the world in comfort, but as aviation has become more commonplace, the job of pilot has too become more and more just like any other job. There are 553 airports in the US with commercial service. United is perhaps the most focused among the big 3 US airlines on small-town service with 235 domestic destinations, but due to the lack of pilots, it's having to cancel routes. In September 2018 alone, the airline stopped service from Chicago to Willard, Illinois, Mobile, Alabama, and Manchester, New Hampshire, even though these routes were likely profitable. United isn't alone in this. Horizon Air, the subsidiary operating Alaska Airlines' regional flights, had to cancel thousands of flights in 2017 due to a severe lack of pilots. There are a couple of possible solutions to this crisis. The most obvious one is to increase pay and to improve working conditions, but from the airlines' perspectives, that's the last-ditch solution as they focus on their bottom lines. One of the more controversial proposals to fix this issue has been to increase automation in the cockpit to the point where only 1 or possibly 0 pilots are needed to fly. This proposal has met criticism from pilots, cabin crew, and the public alike, as many opponents point out that the cockpit is already highly automated and the pilot's main role is to troubleshoot if things go wrong. Nonetheless, with captains of wide-body planes earning more than $300 per flight hour, the cost of crewing the cockpit can be as much as $19,000 each way on the longest flights like San Francisco to Singapore, so there's certainly financial pressure on airlines to cut down the need for pilots if they can. There are thousands of people who become pilots each year, but there are millions more who want to become pilots. To bring more people into the industry, all airlines need to do is to lower the extraordinarily high barrier to entry, since as the industry grows worldwide, the allure of the skies won't be enough to get enough pilots into the cockpit.
Okay, my name's Brennan, and I am here with Matthew and Lee in my business group. And yesterday, as of October 25th, I met with Professor Renzi Kao, Assistant Professor of Computer Science here at PLU. Wanted to get him in video, but he wasn't very comfortable with it due to him not wanting to, make any wrong impressions or give any wrong information over video. So instead, I emailed him, and here is the question that I asked him. I asked him, Professor Kao, applications of AI are progressively expanding with the capabilities of controlling automated machines today, resulting in a less need for a driver behind wheeled vehicles, and soon might even permanently remove the need for pilots on aircraft, commercial and private, although this could take a long time. Do you believe AI is currently on a path where many jobs in the future will be vacant of real people because of the cheaper cost of using artificial intelligence instead? And if so, what job fields do you think people will benefit most from if AI becomes a major component of many businesses? His response was interesting. Here it is. I don't believe people lose jobs simply because of AI. I'll give you an example. When the car first was created, people were afraid that something new would take away all the jobs, especially people who were used to having horses as the transportation tool. This, of course, is not true. You can find more drivers now, and people actually could do something better and join the new jobs created by AI. I guess the job that is not very creative will be replaced by AI. For example, now the self-driving car would take the truck driver's work, so it's better that they should do something else. However, a lot of new jobs may be created because of AI. For example, AI engineers jobs would be very popular, so I always recommend students to take more computer science courses and artificial intelligence courses, and they could find more opportunities. There's many websites out there that can give you an idea of predicting the probability if an AI would take your job. But in summary, the technology would be more than likely to benefit people's lives, and those people who don't accept a new technology could always be potentially hurt by it. What are your thoughts?
So I have received a couple of questions that I want to talk about today, and one of them is whether or not we are going to be supplemented or even completely replaced by drones or robots in the future as airline pilots. Now, I have actually mentioned this and talked about this in one of my earlier podcasts, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it here. I'm not going to go into too much depth to it, but basically the answer to that question is not a very simple one. First of all, there's no question that we are moving towards a more automated industry. If you go back 15 years or 20 years, the automatic systems were much worse. They are much better now. The ATC systems are getting better. The weather radar systems are getting better, and the unmanned aeronautical vehicles, the UAVs, are getting much more sophisticated. So, are we moving towards a more automated industry? I think we are. Are we going to be completely replaced? I don't think so. Not within our lifetime anyway. Maybe, if we're looking at a period of 50 years, maybe at least part of it. I could, for example, see that the freighter fleet might be taken over by drones more and more. Now, why do I not see us being completely replaced? Well, it's because of a multitude of things. First of all, the way that the industry is working at the moment, basically for a major change to take place, it takes decades of regulatory changes in order for it to take place. So, only to change a small avionics system within the aircraft might take 10, 15 years to be certified. In order for an airliner to fly completely without a pilot on board, I honestly can't even see that happening within a conceivable time frame. The amount of testing that would have to go into it is just inconceivable. So that's the regulatory part of it. The second part is psychological. Would you yourself get into a aircraft that doesn't have anyone on board? Would you even go into a boat that wouldn't have a captain on board or anyone who's steering it? The answer to that, I don't know. For me at least, I would be very, very hesitant. We've all had computers that stopped working. We've all had to reboot something that just suddenly stopped without any apparent reason. That is likely to be able to happen, even though there might be subsystems and standby systems that might pick it up. But, the general public is unlikely to want to fly in a completely pilotless aircraft.